Hello, a very warm welcome to Middle East Matters. I'm Sanam Shantier. Coming up on this week's programme, Eastern Ghouta continues to bear witness to one of the fiercest bombing campaigns in Syria's 7-year conflict. Teenager Mohammed Najm gives us his account of life inside the embattled enclave. It's already against the law to insult or defame religion in Egypt. The country is now pushing to ban atheism. Also coming up, diplomacy and art in Iran. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian travels to Tehran for both tough talks and to open the Louvre Museum. But first to Eastern Ghouta, where a bloody battle rages on. In the midst of that crossfire lie some 400,000 civilians. And I've spent the past week speaking to one of them. That's 15-year-old Mohammed Najm, who's been using social media to share videos of the daily bombardment as well as food and medical shortages. As you can see in these images here, even his school wasn't spared from the shelling of Syrian and Russian forces, who are currently trying to drive the anti-regime rebels out of the enclave. Earlier, he sent me his account of the situation on the ground.
Life in Eastern Ghouta is very difficult. The war led by Bashar al-Assad's regime and Russia is very violent. They're hitting buildings, hospitals, civilians, and killing families. We've been here for 2 weeks. The shelters aren't ready, and diseases are starting to spread. The price of food is too high, and with time, food is going to start to disappear. This situation is leading Eastern Ghouta straight to famine. The international community is watching us without doing anything. The ceasefire in Eastern Ghouta hasn't been respected since its very first day. They added another truce, which lasts 5 hours a day. Afterwards, they start shooting at us and killing us. We hope that this war will finish one day and that everyone will come to help us. I hope they'll stop these senseless bombings that don't differentiate between children, men, or women.
Turning our attention to Egypt, where the act of blasphemy is already illegal. The increasingly conservative nation has now proposed a bill that would also officially prohibit Egyptians from not believing in God. A parliamentary commission has even ruled that atheism can cause mental imbalances, which in turn lead to homosexuality. The latest wave of backlash includes an atheist man getting kicked off national television.
Going to jail for not believing in God. The bill, which is currently debated behind closed doors in Cairo's parliament, could soon become law in Egypt. No official comments have yet been made on the project, but in the streets of Cairo, the initiative is already quite popular.
Atheists don't recognize God. They need to be kicked out of this country. We need to do something.
Atheists don't believe in anything. Jews and Christians are fine, but to not have a religion?
90% of Egypt's population is Muslim, and Islam has been the state religion for 38 years. Egyptian citizens must display their religion on their ID cards, and if Christianism and Judaism are recognized by the constitution, atheism is not. This coffee shop in the heart of Cairo used to be a known meeting spot for atheists. It's recently been shut down by police. Here, non-believers prefer to remain anonymous. One man agreed to meet with these French journalists. He says he even hides the fact he's an atheist from his family.
No one actually wants to hear, so because it's like haram, it's really, for them it's kind of radical. Sometimes you're in a cab and talking with the driver, and drivers start talking about religion. And you have to agree, because if you don't, it's going to make a fuss, it's going to make a problem. You know, that this guy can actually get out of the car and tell the people, oh, this is atheist, you're going to be dead. It can happen easily.
With non-believers already discriminated against, the Egyptian government now wants to outlaw them. The move is seen by many as an attempt to rally conservative voters a month before a crucial presidential election.
He wants to make a balance. We fight extremists and we fight atheists. We try to apply Islamic values.
The Egyptian constitution protects freedom of religion, But the country is becoming increasingly intolerant towards those who don't believe in God.
Next, we cross to Iran, where France's foreign minister held tough talks on the country's missile program and regional behavior earlier this week. After the diplomacy came a cultural exchange. Jean-Yves Le Drian visited a collection of artworks on loan from the Louvre in Paris to Tehran. This is the first major show by a Western museum in Iran's history. Emerald Maxwell has the story.
It's the final rush before opening at Tehran's National Museum of Iran. This majestic Egyptian sphinx has just arrived from the Louvre in Paris for an exhibition that's not just a cultural event, but a diplomatic one too. The museum's director is thrilled.
We study Egypt a lot in Iran, so we've seen this sphinx many times in photos. But like the Persian proverb goes, it's better to see it once than to hear about it 100 times. We thank the Louvre and France for their trust.
The exhibition is the result of negotiations 2 years ago between Iran's President Hassan Rouhani and France's then-President François Hollande. Amid great pomp and ceremony, the signing of the contract at the Élysée kicked off months of discussions to decide which of the Louvre's treasures would make the journey to Tehran. The team has carefully selected more than 50 masterpieces from the museum's 8 different departments. In accordance with Iranian law, there are no nudes or love scenes among them, but this Mesopotamian statue of the Prince Ghouta has been selected, as has the 2nd century Minerva, symbolizing Greek and Roman civilizations.
It's an extremely important piece and will sit in pride of place near the beginning of the exhibition. It conjures up the first ancient Greek works of art that made their way into French collections and were among the first to be exhibited when the Louvre opened in 1793.
Packed up with the utmost care to be shipped by cargo plane, the works of art are off to Tehran. The Iranian museum has everything ready to showcase the statue in her new temporary home.
It's extraordinary. Look at the folds in the robes. Look at all the detail.
Western sanctions against Iran's nuclear ambitions had interrupted its cultural relations with France in 2008. But the loan of this bust of Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, among others, is helping to rebuild ties between the two countries. One of the exhibition's sponsors is even petrol giant Total, which had previously suspended its business with Iran. The museum's director says what's at stake is the country's place on the world stage.
To those who'd like Iran to remain isolated, today proves that it's impossible. Iran is showing that it can work with any country in the world.
Running until June, the exhibition is expected to draw thousands of Iranians to the first major show by a Western museum in their country's history.
We finish with Israel, where a tax dispute shut down one of the holiest sites in the world for Christians in late February. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is where they believe Jesus was crucified, buried and resurrected. After 3 days of closure, however, Israeli officials backed down. Iris Mackler explains what lies behind this feud.
The bells at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre drown out the worshippers. Christians are a minority in Jerusalem, but the churches are major landowners. The Franciscans alone have 7 churches here and work with the Sisters of St. Joseph, who founded this hospital.
The main section here is maternity.
If tomorrow the church does have to start paying the new council tax, Sister Gilbert worries about the community.
I am afraid for the Christians of Jerusalem. How will they live if they have to pay these taxes? The Christians of Jerusalem will leave. There are many ways to threaten someone, and they choose taxes.
In 1967, Christians were 10% of Jerusalem's population. Now it's just 1.4%. So the church is making an effort to support its flock. In this music school, the 200 pupils pay very low fees.
What we receive from the parents in school fees covers only 20% of the salaries of the teachers.
As the school does receive fees, it will be liable under the Jerusalem mayor's new tax plan.
Yes, we receive money, and it can be considered as a commercial activity, but we don't make any profit. On the contrary, it's the Brotherhood which funds all the rest through our work and activities.
Israeli authorities are also targeting the wealth of the churches, their huge landownings. For example, many of Jerusalem's most expensive homes are built on land owned by the Greek Orthodox Church and leased back for 99 years at a time.
We live up on the 4th floor.
Irene Grossman bought a flat built on this land. She knew about the lease and believed it would simply roll over. But then the church sold the land to a developer.
Even though the investors did not buy our apartment, they bought the land that the apartment is on. So therefore, it's their apartment. They can do with it whatever they want.
There are 1,000 other people like her. So Israeli parliamentarian Rachel Azaria is proposing a bill where all land sold by the church would automatically revert to the state.
Can't see that we'll just leave huge parts of this capital of Israel, to the hands of some entrepreneurs that we're not even sure who they are.
The churches fear this bill would prevent them selling land, which they might need to raise money to pay their new taxes. Jerusalem's mayor is demanding €155 million. Well,
that's it for this edition of Middle East Matters. Don't forget you can reach out to us on both Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching.